The scream pierced the night, echoing through the neon-lit streets of Neo-Tokyo. Detective Akira Tanaka froze, his chopsticks suspended midair, ramen forgotten. In his 15 years on the force, he'd never heard anything like it, a sound that blended human anguish with something otherworldly. Across town, Dr. Yuki Sato's hands trembled as she stared at her computer screen. The genetic sequencing results couldn't be right. She blinked hard, but the impossibility remained. How could a 3-year-old corpse have DNA markers from the future? The scream came again, closer this time. Tanaka dropped cash on the counter and burst out of the ramen shop. Rain pelted his face as he sprinted down the alley, hand on his holster. A figure darted past, little more than a blur in his peripheral vision. In her lab, Yuki's phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice spoke 4 words that made her blood run cold. They know. Run. Now. The line went dead. Tanaka rounded the corner, skidding on the slick pavement. He found himself in a dead end, facing a wall covered in bioluminescent graffiti. No sign of the screamer or the fleeing figure. But something was wrong. The graffiti was moving. Yuki shoved the DNA samples into her bag, heart pounding. As she reached for her coat, the lab's lights flickered and died. In the sudden darkness, she heard the whisper of a door opening. The glowing symbols on the wall twisted and writhed, forming words in a language Tanaka had never seen. Yet somehow, he understood their meaning. The past and future collide. Choose your path wisely. A hand clamped over Yuki's mouth. She struggled, then relaxed as a familiar voice breathed. It's me. We have to go. They're coming. Her colleague, Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, pulled her towards a hidden panel in the wall. Tanaka's radio crackled to life. All units, multiple reports of temporal anomalies across the city. Unknown casualties. Proceed with extreme caution. He swore under his breath. This was so far beyond his pay grade. As Yuki and Hiroshi emerged from a secret tunnel into the rainy night, a thunderous boom shook the ground. They looked up to see a massive, shimmering portal tear open the sky above the city. In the command center, Chief Inspector Mori barked orders as chaos erupted across every screen. Reports flooded in. People vanishing, buildings morphing, and creatures straight out of legend materializing on the streets. Tanaka's phone chimed a message from an untraceable number. Rendezvous at the Quantum Shrine. Bring the key. He frowned. What key? Yuki and Hiroshi ducked into an ancient temple, its stone walls a stark contrast to the hypermodern city. We need to find the others, Hiroshi panted, before it's too late. Across town, an antiquities dealer named Kenji Watanabe carefully removed an ornate box from his safe. Inside lay an artifact that defied explanation, a key that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Tanaka arrived at the Quantum Shrine, an anachronistic structure of stone and circuitry. A hooded figure emerged from the shadows. Detective, we've been expecting you. Yuki's eyes widened as she recognized the other people gathered in the temple's inner sanctum. Brilliant minds from various scientific disciplines, all brought together by a shared, impossible discovery. Kenji felt the key grow warm in his pocket as he approached the shrine. He'd protected it for years, never fully understanding its purpose. Until now, the hooded figure addressed the assembled group. The barriers between timelines are collapsing. Only you can prevent the unraveling of reality itself. Tanaka's mind reeled. Hours ago, his biggest concern had been filing paperwork. Now he was at the center of, what? A temporal crisis? An interdimensional war? Yuki stepped forward, clutching her bag of DNA samples. Our research. It's all connected, isn't it? The genetic anomalies, the historical inconsistencies. A low hum filled the air as the shrine's hidden mechanisms whirred to life. Symbols like those Tanaka had seen in the alley began to glow on the walls. Kenji produced the key, its metal now pulsing with an inner light. I believe this is what we need to activate the shrine, he said, voice filled with awe and trepidation. Outside, the storm intensified. Lightning illuminated scenes of impossible chaos, samurai warriors clashing with robots, prehistoric beasts roaming neon streets. The hooded figure nodded gravely. The key is crucial, but it's your combined knowledge that will guide us. Each of you holds a piece of the puzzle. Tanaka felt out of his depth but knew he had a role to play. His years as a detective had honed his skills of observation and deduction. Maybe that's why he was chosen. Yuki connected her laptop to an ancient-looking interface. If my calculations are correct, We can use the shrine to stabilize the temporal fluctuations. Hiroshi pointed to a series of glyphs. These correspond to specific points in history. We need to align them precisely with the quantum frequencies we've observed. As the team worked feverishly, Tanaka kept watch. Through the shrine's windows, he saw figures approaching, some human, others decidedly not. Kenji inserted the key into a previously hidden slot. The entire structure hummed with power, holographic displays springing to life around them. "Hurry," the hooded figure urged. "The convergence is nearly upon us. If we don't act now, all of history past, present, and future will collapse into chaos." Yuki's fingers flew over the keys, inputting complex equations. Sweat beaded on her brow as she raced against time itself. Outside, the storm reached a fever pitch. The portal in the sky widened, threatening to swallow the entire city. Tanaka made a split-second decision. He ran to the shrine's entrance, drawing his weapon. Whatever was coming, he would buy the others the time they needed. A blinding light filled the shrine. Yuki, Hiroshi, and Kenji joined hands, forming a circuit with the key and the ancient technology. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, all was silent. Then, a shockwave of energy burst from the shrine, rippling outward. Tanaka watched in awe as the wave passed through the advancing creatures, the buildings, the very air itself. The portal in the sky shuddered, then began to shrink. The impossible beings faded like mirages, the anachronistic elements of the city reasserting their proper forms. Inside the shrine, Yuki collapsed, exhausted. Hiroshi caught her, his own legs shaky. Kenji stared at the now dormant key in his hand, its surface etched with new, cryptic symbols. As quickly as it had begun, the crisis seemed to be over. Tanaka holstered his weapon, his mind struggling to process everything he'd witnessed. The hooded figure addressed them once more. "You've succeeded in averting disaster. For now. But this was only the beginning." Yuki looked up, her scientific curiosity overriding her fatigue. "What do you mean? Who are you really?" The figure lowered its hood, revealing a face that shifted and changed, as if multiple people were occupying the same space. "I'm all of you," it said in a voice that echoed through time. "The boundaries between realities will always be in flux," the figure continued. "You five are now the guardians of this nexus point. Your task has just begun." Tanaka cleared his throat. "So, does this mean I should cancel my vacation plans?" A ripple of nervous laughter broke the tension. The team looked at each other, strangers bound now by an incomprehensible duty. As dawn broke over Neo-Tokyo, the city slowly returned to normal. But for 5 individuals, nothing would ever be the same. The key to the future and the past was in their hands. In her lab, Yuki stared at the DNA samples with new understanding. Each strand was a thread in a vast, temporal tapestry. Kenji reverently placed the key back in its box, knowing it would be called upon again all too soon. Tanaka returned to the precinct, wondering how he'd possibly explain his night in his report. Some truths, he realized, had to remain hidden. And deep beneath the city, in chambers older than history itself, ancient machinery hummed with renewed purpose, ready to face the next crisis. As Neo-Tokyo awakened, oblivious to the danger it had faced, 5 unlikely heroes prepared for a future where the impossible had become their new reality. Weeks passed, and the city's collective memory of that strange night faded like a half-remembered dream. But for the newly formed team of Guardians, every day brought fresh challenges and discoveries. Yuki threw herself into her research with renewed vigor. The DNA samples yielded more secrets with each analysis, hinting at a fluidity to human genetics that defied conventional science. Tanaka found himself looking at crime scenes with new eyes. What once might have been dismissed as impossible now held potential clues to temporal disturbances. Kenji's antique shop became a front for a different kind of treasure hunt. He scoured historical records and artifacts, searching for other objects that, like the key, bridged the gap between times. Hiroshi focused on developing technology to detect and predict temporal anomalies. His lab at the university became a hub of cutting-edge quantum research. The hooded figure, whom they now called the Nexus, appeared sporadically with warnings and guidance. Its shifting appearance remained a constant reminder of the fluid nature of their reality. One rainy afternoon, Tanaka was called to a grisly murder scene. The victim's body showed signs of aging backwards from elderly to infant in a matter of hours. Yuki's analysis of tissue samples from the victim revealed a horrifying truth. Someone was experimenting with time manipulation on living subjects. The team gathered at the quantum shrine, each bringing their piece of the puzzle. Kenji had found references to a cult in ancient texts, the Chrono Syndicate devoted to mastering time itself. Hiroshi's instruments detected a spike in temporal energy in the warehouse district. Whatever the Chrono Syndicate was planning, it was happening soon. As they prepared to investigate, the Nexus appeared with a warning. Beware the paradox. What you're about to face may unmake you all. The warehouse was a front for a high-tech laboratory. Inside, the team discovered multiple versions of the same person, a scientist named Akemi Kudo at different ages, all working feverishly on a massive device. Tanaka moved to arrest them, but Yuki held him back. "Wait," she whispered. "If these are all the same person from different times, we could trigger a paradox." The eldest Akemi noticed them and smiled sadly. "You're too late. Or too early. It's hard to tell anymore." Time seemed to slow as multiple realities converged. The team saw glimpses of pasts that never were and futures that might never be. With a supreme effort of will, Yuki and Hiroshi combined their knowledge of genetics and quantum physics. They realized the key could be used to stabilize the temporal flow, but at a cost. Tanaka made the decision. He grabbed the key and plunged it into the heart of the vortex. There was a blinding flash, and then silence. The warehouse was empty save for the team and a single, unconscious Akemi. The paradox had been averted, but the Chrono Syndicate was still out there, and the key was gone scattered across time and space.